Hi guys, welcome to Football with Brownie. Hope you're all well, keeping safe, keeping each other safe, and spreading the love during this pandemic. Now, before I go any further, please like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel, because without your support, this channel can't progress. And remember, it's free to subscribe. I can't even say my word, to subscribe. And we all love something which is free. Anyway, welcome to this week's Cardiff City show. I have a very special guest today. Dan Blakemore has returned. GTFM, also founder of Forza Italian Football and German Football Fuzzball.com. How are you, Dan? You okay?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Nice to be back.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I know that you're a busy man. Thank you very much for taking the opportunity, really. Right, Dan, I've asked you to join me because a very interesting closed-door meeting took place on Monday between Cardiff City representatives and a select audience, which involved supporter group representatives and some local media. But before we go into that, Dan, last night we went to Barnsley and it finished 2-2. What are your thoughts on the game?
It was pretty dire. It was probably worse than we've been watching for the last few weeks. The only difference was we came out of it with a point, which I suppose is some improvement in if you're trying to look for a positive. But the football, I think it would be naive to think he was going to make that much of a difference in the space of a couple of days of being at the club, which is fair enough. I wasn't expecting much. But I think I was expecting a little bit more than we got last night. I think Barnsley threw it away more than I don't think we deserved to get anything out of it. But I suppose at least it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think we didn't start playing until we were 2-0 down. Now, I know that's typical Cardiff of late, but looking at that pitch, I can actually understand why, he did drop Harry Wilson. I don't think that pitch would have helped Harry Wilson's game whatsoever. The tactics of both teams were basically bypassed the midfield because it was a bog. They were playing on a bog.
Yeah.
But that first goal was absolutely terrible. Two players marking one man, leaving the goal scorer absolutely free for the header.
Yeah, I've watched it a few times. I'm not sure what Hoylett was doing in the first place, putting the ball. It was the best cross he's made all season, but it was into the wrong box. And Aidan Flint was, I have no idea where he was going. He ran off, decided to jump in the way, completely missed the man, and the striker was all alone in the middle. But then that's pretty much what we've got used to all season.
Maybe the problem with football, Dan, I'm sure you agree, is that it's a hope that kills us, really. And and one of the main factors I think people were hoping for with the appointment of McCarthy was that the defence would be shown up, more solid, but the evidence just wasn't there last night.
Aidan Flint starting was a big red flag straight away. I know they said Morrison was suffering with a sore back, which is why they didn't think he could play 90 minutes, which is fair enough. But Flint's not really played in the last 4 months. He wasn't great when he was playing regularly for us. I don't think I've ever seen anyone who's 6'5" be so useless in the air. It seems like it's one thing he should be good at regardless, just with his size, and he still manages to get nowhere near it. I mean, you couldn't even get a local newspaper under his feet the way he jumps. But I mean, I'm hoping that was just a case of he's played because Morrison's not 100%. If that's the case, Fred, I would rather see that than what we did having Bennett at centre back. That's okay. But hopefully that's not a sign of things to come.
And I don't know if you know his parents, but a big shout out to young Isaac Davis, who made the bench yesterday. I know his parents really, really well, and I know that they would be absolutely buzzing with his inclusion. He didn't get any minutes, but just to be involved, it must have given him his confidence so much of a boost last night.
Yeah, I think that's what everybody wants to see at the club as well. We've been saying for years now, there's nobody coming through. I mean, since, I don't know, Aaron Ramsey, there's not been much in the way of anything come out of the academy. Neil Harris had a big spiel when he first came in of how he wanted to work with the academy and bring them through. And I think the only young player he really used a lot of last year was Dion Sanderson, who's not even from Cardiff's academy, and benched him as soon as he had one poor performance. So he kind of went against everything he said when he originally arrived at the club, and we never saw anybody come through. But I think you're struggling with money, as I think we're well aware we are, and we'll get on to later, I'm sure. But if you're struggling with money, then you need to use what you've got. And unless you bring them through and give them a chance, they're never going to improve or get to the level you need them at. So it's nice to see people being included, even if they're not getting on, they're getting a taste of it at the very least.
Yeah, I remember the good old days. Let's just say, I'm showing my age now when I use phrases like that. But the good old days where, for all Sam and Man's faults, and believe me, there were a fucking lot of them. I witnessed fucking many of them myself. But for all his faults, one positive he done was focus a hell of a lot into the youth development. And then, we had the likes of Gunter, Ramsey, Ledley, all coming through. I know Gavin come from West Brom, but James Collins as well was another one. And they were all moved on for, amounts of money, which saved the club, basically. One of my issues with Tan, and, many people know my main issue with him, but one of the additional issues I had with him was basically smashed up the local kind of recruitment for youngsters I'd even say within Cardiff, definitely the valleys and out towards Port Albert. He focused a lot on Malaysian soccer schools, not realizing that, if you did find that Malaysian Maradona, you wouldn't be able to get a work permit for him. Right? But during that time then, that allowed Swansea to get into our kind of turf and start getting the youngsters, and they bearing the fruits of that. I don't know if you would agree with that, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, well, my son and a couple of other boys I coach are all in the Cardiff City system at one level or another now. Well, they're all 7 or 8 years old. But I know a lot of people from older age groups within Lamrimney, where I coach, and other clubs, whose sons are at Swansea, Newport, and other clubs. Because they could never get a look in with Cardiff City. I mean, my boy's been playing since he was 5, so we're into his 3rd season now. And I think only twice I've ever seen people in Cardiff City scouting uniforms, walking around, watching on a Saturday morning. They were lucky enough to get picked up while they were there. But I mean, how many other kids are not lucky enough to have been on that pitch on Saturday morning who may be better, may have the same ability, that are not getting noticed? I mean, the infrastructure's there. You've got the House of Sport. They've got a wonderful setup. But if it's not being used correctly, and I mean, you've got the other thing of, it's all well and good if somebody comes to you now and says, right, we think he's good enough, we want to give him a contract. But then if you look at all the kids who are 18, 19 now, they finish at the academy and don't get a look in at the first team, is it the best place to be if that's the way you want your son or daughter to go?
I agree. I absolutely agree.
There's no end product at the end of it. Are you just signing their life away for 7, 8, 9 years with nowhere to go? If that's the case, then, I mean, you're better off going to Swansea or Newport or anywhere else.
Well, thankfully, and it was a few years ago now, it was the worst job of my life. But when I was on council in Merthyr, I did contact Cardiff City and just getting like a rolling up like a once a month kind of soccer school within the Merthyr area. And they wanted to charge, quite a bit of money for something in which would hopefully benefit them in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite clear that it's a business at the moment, and like when we discuss the meeting later, I think money is at the forefront of everybody's mind, and that seems to be the only concern. Which I mean, it's not great. I see quite a lot of the under-23 highlights come up on Facebook all the time. There's some very, very good football players. And you don't hear of any of them outside of that 2 or 3 minute video you see posted up at the highlights. They're not involved with the first team. They're not around. What have you got to lose by sticking them on a bench? At the end of the day, it's a progression from where they are. But it just seems to be that we don't want to use that.
That's fair enough. Right. We'll get into it now, Dan. But before we do get into it, can I just tell you and apologize to you as well. Guys, I'm doing this on my phone rather than my webcam because the last show with Dan, I messed up and I done him a disservice and the channel a disservice. So the people in the chat, I can see you, mentioned and saying hello and so on and so forth, but apologies, I won't be able, my phone is so small, I wouldn't be able to connect or even look at the chat very much during this show. I just want to get, give Dan my full attention because this is going to go into quite a bit of detail and a bit of length. I'm assuming, Dan, you think?
Yeah.
Right, let's get on with it. As I mentioned earlier on, Dan, a meeting took place between Cardiff City representatives, and those representatives were Chairman Mehmet Daman, Ken Chu, Wayne Nash, and supporters liaison representative Adam. I'm sorry, I don't know his surname. They were also with senior partner from law firm Capital Law, and they spoke about a few subjects, which included club finances, future, court case, managers, players, fans, etc. So, Dan, were you invited to this special meeting?
I was not one of the chosen few. No, I did not get the golden ticket. And from what I can tell, I don't think a lot of people did. I think more people were left out than were included, certainly.
Oh, right. Okay. You know what? You put my mind to rest then, because I thought that by you coming on, honestly, I thought, oh no, I've ruined his career. I thought with local media. But listen, I know through my StreamYard, but fortunately, the club doesn't have Spanish internet. I know there's only there's a limit to how many people you can have in a meeting, but surely you would have thought that the people who would be in attendance during every post-match interview, both home and away, would be in attendance in such a meeting.
Yeah, I think from what I understand, there was a select group of media as well. But what I found most strange was most of those in attendance, few from Wales Online, tweeted that they couldn't quote the meeting, which I found odd. They could give information on what was discussed, but they weren't allowed to specifically quote anything that was said, which seems strange. I mean, if I'm to sit in a meeting, the first thing I do is turn on a tape recorder to make sure that anything I quote is obviously exactly what was said and I'm not paraphrasing or making things up. So to go into any sort of meeting where that's removed from you as a member of the media seems strange that you can't put that out, and kind of, I suppose it indicates that there's things they don't want to be heard to a wider audience other than just hearsay.
I know, which, to be honest, absolutely smashes away some of the stuff in which I've been reading about it then. Because, for example, I'm not I hope I'm not doing anyone disservice, but I've been looking on fans forums and supporters groups and so forth about what there's been. But they know who these people would be for writing, such articles and columns and so on. So, okay, so everything in which we could be discussing may well be watered down then. Would you agree on that?
I think it comes with the tag of allegedly may have been may have been discussed. I've done the same as you. I mean, I got the bullet points here from the Cardiff City forum from the meeting that were put down. And again, it's kind of all just general. This was discussed, and this was kind of what was said. But you don't actually know what came out of it, which is it's odd, very odd.
If you want information on transfers, you make sure you follow our rule, basically. Yeah. Right, anyway, let's get into it. Okay, first off, can choose fans for paying £10 to watch your games. I'm assuming that's Cardiff City TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, okay. And as you said, every little helps. Paraphrasing my Tesco advert. And by the way, I've got my Tesco Christmas jumper as well. Right? And he's asking people now, I don't know if you know about this, Stan, right? But I've got an issue with this already, right? And I've asked the club about this on Twitter, and unsurprisingly, I've never had any response. Now, I shouldn't really have an issue with it because financially I'm benefiting, all right? As you know, I live in Marbella in Spain. But my query is, why UK fans have to pay a tenner and non-UK fans have to pay £7? Because I'm paying £7 at the moment. do you know the reason for this? Surely they're using the same strings and so on.
I don't. I mean, so as a season ticket holder, I get home games for free. Because I bought a season ticket and obviously we can't go in to watch. But it still costs me a tenner to watch the away games. From what I understand, obviously it's a fixed price in the UK that was agreed between the EFL clubs. So it could be £10 was just the same, whatever club you're watching. I wasn't aware that it was cheaper outside of the UK, although I did notice yesterday when I was paying for the Barnsley game that there was a link on there for a subscription, an international subscription, I think was £110 for the whole season, which seems awfully cheap.
I know.
I don't know the exact reasoning behind that, but it does seem odd. And I mean, sort of £10 a game is, I suppose, it's relatively acceptable.
But I don't know. I've got no problem. I'd be no problem paying the extra £3. But I'm just wondering if there was a relative reason for that. And I bet you now, once people watch this and they realise what I'm doing, they'll chuck a VPN on and start paying it £7.
I just find it crazy anyway. I mean, like, I cover German football, and I mean the price disparity between watching football there and here is ginormous. So I mean, even though a tenner seems okay, when you factor in you can be in Germany and go and pay €7 to watch a game in a stadium, you do start to realise how monetized the game is here, with everything from Sky to BT. I mean, TV subscriptions alone cost a fortune a month just to be able to watch games. So
I mean, locally, Marbella play in. Years ago it used to be like the Division 3 South and North and so on. At the third tier, I don't know if same in I think it's same in Italy, I think, as well.
Yeah,
at the third tier, it's regionalised. But I know it's what I think I took. Well, last time one day I took my cousin, and we were talking €3 for a ticket.
Yeah,
but I know the players are part-time at that level, but what's the stop? It should be part-time at that level anyway in the UK. No wonder clubs are finding it harder. But, that's another subject, I suppose. No, I just wondered if you knew the reason for it to be £7 for non...
I
No,
don't.
just
But
wondering.
you can be certain it's going to be the first thing I do when I've got a 3.5 hours is to find out why I'm paying an extra £3 to watch.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it also confirmed by Dalman that there's going to be an Emiliano Sala trust fund set up, and it's just weeks away from a finalisation of the fund details. The club has to be applauded for setting up such a thing. You agree, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something they had to do. It's taken
Yeah.
long enough to do it. I think
Are they setting it up? Are they setting? I know I don't want to be, because of the issue and the feeling around it, I don't want to be very critical, but I know how some of those club representatives work in a mind. And I'm wondering whether this, by them setting this up, would it soften the potential penalisation of a certain court case further down the line?
It's hard not to be cynical about things sometimes. I mean, it's something they had to do. I say they had to do it, they didn't have to do it. And, it's great that they have gone out and set it up. It has been a long time coming. I mean, I was quite surprised when I read it and they were saying, they were weeks away from a finalisation. I mean, it's just gone past the 2-year anniversary. So I don't know what goes into setting up a fund. I'm not sure what the logistics and the legalisation of everything is when you're doing something like that. So I'm not sure how long it takes, but it seems like an awful long time. But it's great that it's finally here. It is the right thing to do. And it's nice to see, hopefully, and they carry through with what they've said, and it will only be a matter of weeks before it's all up and running.
And I don't know, can't, hold my hands up. I don't know much about the details, but I'm assuming, apart from the kind of outgoings, which, for the organisations involved, everything then goes to the family. Would I be correct in assuming that? Or?
From what I understand, yes. I mean, I suppose it'll work like any charity, really, not for profit. And other than covering its overheads, everything else will be used for whatever they're planning on doing with it, which should be the case, yeah.
Right. Going on. Apparently, Vincent Tan / Cardiff City are involved in 3 court cases. It could, in total, cost the club 50 million. And in words that was used is that all 3 court cases have turned very nasty, with a possibility of the club losing all 3. The cases involved are as mentioned, Emiliano Sala, which can cost the club up to 25 million. Former director, now he is former director now, isn't he? Michael Isaac?
Yes, as far as I know.
Yeah. Because he's suing for 10 million for his 2% stake. I think it was a valuation, and I think that one was about the valuation of the share price at the time. And this one never seems to go. But Langston / Salmerman suing for up to 15 million for an agreement with Tan that has not still not been resolved. What are your thoughts on the case info?
I mean, the Sam Haman thing is, again, you were only working on sort of bits of information that are provided. My understanding was he was given a role as a lifetime chairman, which was meant to be ceremonial. And he seems to think that should come with a say in what happens at the club. But I mean, again, without actually knowing what was discussed and being present at a meeting where it was discussed, you don't know what he was told. He may very well have been told you're going to be the ceremonial chairman for the rest of your life, and that'll come with this benefit and that benefit, and he hasn't got it. But I mean, the legal case, the fact that he's suing for money, as far as I know, to get anything out of it, he needs to be able to prove that he's at a loss, which, I mean, I can't see any way how he is if he's doing a ceremonial role. The Emiliano Sala case is...
It's well documented.
Yeah, I think it depends what side of the fence you fall on, really. I mean, my view is, at the end of the day, they signed the paperwork. He was on his way over. The transfer fee was due. it's a circumstance that is, as far as to my knowledge, has never happened before. So it's sort of a new situation for everybody. But I mean, at the end of the day, to be talking about something like money when something like that's happened, it just seems
exactly. This is my issue. This is my issue with it, Dan. Right. For the people who don't know about it, the argument is that he wasn't registered as a Cardiff City player at the time of death. Now, am I right in saying that there was an irregularity in the original contract in which he signed, which the FA wasn't happy with?
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that? So a new contract needed to be signed, but unfortunately, due to what happened, it was never signed. But
he never got to.
But on that respect, surely some of the blame has to go to the club, because I don't know how long it would take for. Surely you would get confirmation from the FA that he is a player before you go rolling him out in front of the cameras, parading a shirt.
Yeah. I mean, look, for all intents and purposes, I think the transfer was done, wasn't it? He was on his way to be a Cardiff City player. I think the first they realised there was a problem was when he didn't turn up to training. So, I mean, I don't think under any circumstance, if he were ever going back to Nantes, he was a Cardiff City player at the time. And I mean, it just seems a bit vulgar to be worrying about money in a situation like that.
Exactly, I agree.
Transfer has gone through just because, the transfer fee was whatever it was at the time. And now once you've had the interest, the legal fees, it could potentially end up costing, 2-3 times as much as they would have. Which makes no sense.
Which goes back on to the point I'm going to try and make. I don't know about you with your working arrangements, Dan, but I've been in recruitment, unfortunately, for the best part of 20 years off and on, right? And you get customers who pay, who don't pay. You end up going to court. Now, legal civil matters are completely different to criminal matters, right? And you can have the best legal representative in the world, and it really all depends on whether the judge had sex the night before or not. Right? It all depends if you rolled out of bed happy, man, or because you just can't judge it, really. So I'm surprised, especially the Lansdowne one. I'm surprised that nothing hasn't been resolved beforehand. Why?
I think that's a case of I don't think they particularly like each other. And I think it's almost a pissing contest, isn't it, to see between two rich men to see who can come out better off. But again, it just seems like from a club perspective, it just seems unnecessary.
Exactly.
You just whatever you got to do to come to an agreement to make it go away, and so you don't have all of this on top of the other things that are going on. Exactly. It just seems daft.
Right. Also, during that meeting, owner Vincent Tan had an offer to sell the club, but turned it down. Chairman Dalman stated that Tan had received offers to buy the club, one of which he considered to be... Shit, I lost it now. 1 second. Considered be, his words, generous. But Vincent Tan turned it down. Well, what the hell is Vincent Tan doing with the club then? If he's just...
Yeah, we talked about this Saturday. I think this is like, I think they always say you don't buy a football club to make money, because the majority of them don't. And it's like a rich man.
Hang on, Dan. I'm just going to wash the dishes. Yeah, I'm just going to wash the dishes.
It's a rich man's plaything, isn't it? And I think if he had any intention of selling, and it was business sort of orientated, if you had a generous offer, then surely you would take it. Like we said on the weekend, there seems to be no short-term, mid-term or long-term plan. It's almost as if they're just kind of reacting to things as it happens, and it's not really being run in the best way possible. But I think from that, we can gather that he has no intention of going anywhere.
I agree.
I mean, I think it has just turned into something he likes to play with.
Now, I've told on good authority as well. I've spoken to him for years, I'll be honest with you, thank God. But I spoke on good authority that Sam Emanuel still tried to put a bid in, which was turned down. Is this a case of Sam Emanuel wanting to bring a band back together? You know, he's had his day.
The same thing, yeah. One of the bids was from Sam Haman. And when he found out who the bid was from, it was immediately turned down. That may have very well have been the generous bid.
I know Sam Haman is probably not generous. He's probably not a generous bid.
I did find that slightly odd. But I mean, when you think about it, like, how old Sam Haman now? He's in his late 70s. Like,
yeah, I know.
I can't really see any reasoning behind wanting to purchase the club, especially at the moment. It's not making any money. It's not a business move. It seems very, very odd and suspect as to why he would want to take it back. Like you say, maybe it's just getting the band back together to relive the wonder years, but it did seem odd.
I don't know. I just hearsay, obviously, that he was involved. But listen, this is from someone who crossed paths with Sam Haman quite regularly back in the day, and it's a case of, look, they were great days, in my opinion. They were great days, enjoyable days, but just fucking leave it and move on. Right. Going on. Dalman and other Cardiff representatives went to France just before Christmas. They had to make a statement to police over the Emiliano Sala incident. The senior partner from law firm Capital Law is acting on behalf of the club between a dispute between Cardiff and Nantes. They were there collecting evidence in support the defence against Nantes' claim for the transfer fee. My question on this, can't both clubs just come to an agreement? Okay, can we just go 50-50 on this? Frankie, I know, Simon, Frankie has seen in the chat. Now, guys, just to reiterate, I'm doing this on my phone because of issues, webcam and mic issues I had. So I'm doing it on my phone. I won't be able to bring in chat comments into the mainstream. But Frankie does mention, football clubs insure players for career with injuries and worse. And that's bang on. But because of, I'd be very surprised if an insurance company, whether it be non-insurance company or Cardiff, would be paying out because of the issue. So can't both clubs just say, look, to come to an agreement 50-50?
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, that's what should have happened. I think this is where you run into the murky world of football where money rules all. I mean, in the situation, to normal people, I would have thought sitting in a room and coming to some sort of agreement would have been the best way to do things. But then, I mean, I don't know a lot about non-football or who owns the club, but I imagine two rich men in a room arguing over money very rarely ends with an amicable 50-50 agreement. So, I mean, I think it's gone past that stage now. We've kind of headed down the road of ridiculous and court cases and FIFA and everybody else getting involved. But I mean, hindsight's the greatest tool in the world, but I think
tell me about it.
They would probably love to have just gone, right, let's sit in a room and sort this out. But it's kind of gone past that now, I think, where everybody's just holding their ground and trying to prove they were right. Which, I mean, in the wake of, like I said earlier, it's a horrible, horrible situation, one you would never wish upon anybody. And I think to be arguing over money just seems to be crass at best, and it probably should be dealt behind.
That's a good word to use. That's a good word. That's completely out of my dictionary, but it's a good word to use, Dan. Fair play. Right, going on. Now this is an interesting issue. Vincent Tan conversion of debt to equity. Now, for people who don't know about this, 5 years ago, Vincent Tan promised the fans, that he would convert the club's debt into equity. Basically shares, wasn't it? I think the So turn it into shares. But 5 years will be up in February 2021. The meeting recognised that TAN had taken significant steps towards this goal. However, tend to confirm that no further conversations had been made since the last set of accounts. Now, I haven't looked at the last set of accounts, but I'm told that we're in more debt now than what we were when TAN took over. Is that solely down to COVID, Dan, you know?
No, I don't think so. I think that's probably down to, I think COVID hasn't helped. I think everybody's aware of that. I think every football club's in the same position. But I mean, when you start going through the wage bill, the amount they've spent on players, a lot of which has been completely wasted. I mean, like I said, the other day I was looking when they were talking about loaning Rabbi Matondo, and I was comparing his wages with like Josh Murphy, and I was amazed to see, you know, via the internet how true it is that he's on somewhere around 25 grand a week playing in the Championship. And I say playing loosely because he's very rarely on a field. So I think the debt situation is not just, I don't think anyone can just pass it off as, oh, we're in a pandemic, but surely not helped. Yeah. But I think there's been mismanagement when it comes to the sale of players, bringing people in, and the amount they're paying out on wages is astronomical for a Championship club.
Well, Diamond then stated that the club was losing 3 million a month at present. However, when asked about this, they didn't include incomes like advertising, sponsorship, merchandise, Sky money, and parachute payments. So if they haven't included that, how on earth can they say that they're losing 3 million a month?
Yeah, that's a false misrepresentation at best, I think. You can't be losing 3 million a month if you're not including some of your incomings. I mean, anything like that, when somebody says we're losing 3 million a month, it always seems like a bit of a pie in the sky idea. I mean, unless you're actually sat looking at the books. I'm sure they are losing money at the moment, which I think every football club is losing money to some extent. 3 million seems like an awful lot. And even for somebody like Vincent Tan, who's got bucket loads of the stuff and can throw it at the problem, that's an awful lot of cash to be throwing in to make ends meet. So I'm skeptical on the number of 3 million. I'm sure there is a loss, but I don't think it's that much.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, this is an interesting issue, but it's an interesting issue for some people. Cardiff City applied for 8.3 million of EFL funding after missing out on Welsh Government grants. Now, for those who don't know, correct me if I'm wrong when I say this, Dan, but basically, Welsh Government has helped many sporting clubs within Wales, but not Wrexham, Cardiff, Newport, Swansea, because they're reasoning because they're in the English system. So have they had any funding?
So my understanding is no. My understanding is any grant from the government regarding sport goes to the governing body. So I still work loosely with a rugby league club in South Wales, and the sport has just been given a grant which goes to Wales Rugby League. And then there's criteria for how you then claim money from that grant. So as far as I'm aware, that's the same for everybody. And my understanding with football is that grant went to the FAW, to which Cardiff City are not attributed because they play under the FA banner, same as Swansea, Newport and Wrexham do. So they're not eligible to take anything out of it. My only problem with that is the FAW are perfectly happy to have the City under-23s and the Swansea under-23s playing the FAW Cup and take all of the plaudits and the media and everything that comes with it. But they seem to have cut them off completely. So my understanding is they haven't received anything and they won't at all.
They won the tour from the EFL.
From
EFL.
the EFL, possibly, if there's, if a similar system is in place there, then they can apply for funding from there, like this loan. But they won't receive anything from Welsh grants, is my understanding of it. That may change in the future. It seems odd that obviously professional football clubs that provide jobs, provide the economy with money, all of it cut off because they play under a different banner. But yeah, my understanding is they won't get anything from the Welsh government as it stands.
Okay, which actually goes into my next subject, really. The club's committee are planning and looking to have a Cardiff City B team and put it into a league. So what league would that be then? Would it, you can't have the first team into one in the English system and a reserve team in a Welsh system. But then again, you may have answered my question with the Welsh Cup issue. But
that may also be a very clever workaround to the problem of you don't play under the FAW banner. If they do have a B team that play Welsh League football, obviously the Welsh League is completely controlled by the FAW, so you're kind of circumventing the problem there by now becoming part of the FAW umbrella to a certain extent anyway.
But also, I know going back to the day. Okay, whenever Cardiff had or Swansea had issues with fans, and I put that in a broader context. For example, after what happened in the Leeds game, we all know what happened after the Leeds game, pitch invasions and everything. But the panel which give Cardiff a fine for that was the FAW, not the English system. So, you know what I mean? And surely, if you transfer a player, you still need international clearance. So I can now see why it's so murky and why it's such an issue now for the club.
Yeah, I mean, the FAW is a strange situation. As far as I can see, it controls the Welsh leagues and kids football. Which I just find it. I know it's different to a lot of places where obviously in Spain you have the Spanish FA, it controls everything. We're in Great Britain, so the country is not in all. But I think whenever you have a situation where you don't have one central governing body in any sport, it just leads to situations like this, which are invariably usually about money and who gets it and who doesn't. I mean, it just seems odd that the FAW will quite happily let them play in their cups and will take everything that comes with that. But when it comes to money, they want absolutely nothing to do with it, which always raises eyebrows, I suppose. If you don't want to be... They're Welsh clubs at the end of the day. They play in a different system because Cardiff City are not going to play in the Welsh League. They're not going to go and play Barrytown every week. It is what it is. They seem to have no interest in having any ties with them when it comes to financial matters.
I know. I know Mark Evans for Welsh FA. I've known him for the best part of 30 years. So I have to tread carefully about slagging off the Welsh FA. So we'll move on. Just the last kind of point, Dan, if that's okay with you. And I have noticed this as a viewer of Cardiff City games lately, is that there's not many like Cardiff flags dotted around the stadium. And one of the supporters apparently said, it's a disgrace that the clubs like Newport County better run for its supporters and organisation, and called it very disappointing. I mean, the flag issue, I mean, you need to please the fans who are paying for a season ticket and they can't get in. It may not be the club's fault they can't get in, but at least you keep them happy. Do you know what I mean? If a few flags, why hasn't that been addressed, do you think?
Like I've said before, I think it's just a case of the club is run as a business. I don't think the fans are even a second thought most of the time.
Yeah.
I think, anything like that costs money.
Yeah.
Might not be a lot of money, but it's still costing money. And it just appears very much that it's a business, and anything that costs money is bad, and all they want to do is bring it in. So I don't think the fans even come across their minds most of the time, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. No. But interesting nevertheless, Dan. Interesting nevertheless. We've gone on 45 minutes, and is there anything else you wanna
The only point I noted from going through the bullet points from the meeting was something we discussed Saturday, where they were asked, I think it was Mehmet Dalman was asked about the consideration of bringing a director of football in at board level.
Yeah.
Which was, I think the wording on the bullet points was met with a lukewarm reaction. And I think I read somewhere else that his answer was, why would we want to do that? Which I think that said it all for me. Really.
I agree.
Football side of things, like I said to you on the weekend, I think it's just a play thing. It's a business. They're not, you have, like I said, I use Man City as the example. They've got someone with lots of money who does things the right way. He stays out of the football and he just funds things. Whereas I think we've got the other side of the coin. We've got a man with lots of money who wants to be fully involved and do whatever he wants. That's a concern. I mean, for me, anyway, going forward, because currently I don't see. They also said Harris was involved in the last few transfers, which I don't think is true.
And I'd say the point I'm making, you just touched upon. It should also be a concern for managers or even future managers. If they got no go-between between the boardroom and themselves, then bloody hell, if an issue comes up and it becomes public, then any manager is going to have a fight on his hands, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think they touched on it again in the meeting. They said they'd spoken to a young Premier League manager.
Yeah, they did,
which I can only, a little bit of detective work deciphers Eddie Howe is the only one that I can really see there who flatly turned them down.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, very surprisingly, because he's waiting for a Premier League job. But also, I mean, things like that. Would you want to go into a club where you've got no link and you're kind of just there and you're expected to say yes and no and get on with whatever they tell you to do? I don't think you're going to get anybody of any real ilk to come in and do the job if that's the case. And if they don't want football people on the board, then I can see us being in the same situation for years to come.
Yeah, this young manager apparently went back to him and said, I'm more ambitious than Cardiff City. I can better myself. Well, if it is Eddie Howe, he'd absolutely bang on, surely.
Yeah, I would have thought anyone who's got Premier League experience, and he's the only one I can think of, and let's be honest, he had more than Premier League experience. He took him from the very bottom to the very top and stayed there for years. I mean, would you want to come into a club sitting 15th in the Championship with well-documented money troubles and they're losing however many million a month? They don't want people on the board who know football. I can't see anybody wanting to take that on, which is why we end up with the Mick McCarthys of the world who are just back from a holiday. Into the job.
Don't start me on Mick McCarthy. I had enough bloody abuse, I tell you. Okay, no worries. Dan, we'll leave it like that. Where can people find you on social media?
On Twitter, mostly, mate, at DJB Football. And we've got at TGF Football, which is the German football site, which is slightly quiet at the moment because I'm a one-man operation. And with the pandemic, I'm concentrating on other stuff, but hopefully we'll relaunch again soon.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for coming on, Dan. And as per usual, it's like an episode of Coronation Street down Cardiff City Stadium, eh?
No worries, okay. Mate. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. And guys, before I end, apologies about the comments in the live chat. As I've mentioned previously, I've had to do this on my phone rather than my laptop and a webcam, because last time I apologies, I give Dan and the show a disservice. So thanks everyone in the chat. Thanks everyone who's going to watch us later on. And well, take care of yourself and spread the love. Take care.